Welcome back to another tutorial. For today, we're going to look at how we can make a menu scene for our game. And as you can see, I've already set this up, so there is no need for us to start dragging things in and out. You can see that I have an inside this canvas. I have an image which is the mountain image. That's this image which you are seeing over here, which is a UI sprite. Um, it was P a PNG file which I converted into a UI, and this is it. So this is what I'm using over there. And then the title tutorial, this was also designed and brought in, so I put it up top so you can see what we'll be dealing with. This should probably be the title of your game. So this tutorial should be the title of your game. For my play button, it's a normal button with a text on it. On the text there is a play and then normal font. I don't have any special font, so it's the same area, or I do have about three, but we will be using the default, which is area. So that's it for our play button. And then I have two buttons. One is for music on off and one for music on. Alright, so we'll be using both of them to save anyway, whether our music is going to be on or off during the game. And then an exit button, which if a player gets tired of the game and wants to quit, then you can he can click this button and get out of the application. So it has all been set. Now the only thing we need to do is to code, and that is what we'll be handling right now. So the first button which we will take a look at would be this play button, and this play button would be taking us to another scene. So right now I'm going to create a second scene inside of my assets. So I'm going to create, select the scene, and I'm going to name this scene 2. Alright, so this would be this default scene, which is scene 1, and this would be the scene 2. So before we go further, we're going to go into file, select build settings, and then we're going to drag these two scenes into from the assets folder into the build settings. So as you can see, there is already a scene. Our default scene is already there, and then I have deleted a scene which I wasn't using previously, so let me clear that by hitting the delete button. I'm going to drag this scene 2 and add it to this, so it's going to be our second scene which we're going to be loading. Now let's close this, and the next thing we will be doing is we're going to create a C# script, and this script I'm going to call it menu. So with this done, I can now double click on the menu to open it up in Visual Studio, and there we will connect our menu to C#. So let's get into that. Alright, so inside of Visual Studio, the first thing which we want to do now is to copy this using Unity Engine. So let's copy this and paste it in the next line, and then let's add .scene management to it. So let's call this scene management, and this should handle the loading level. So for our start, I don't think we'll be needing this. Even if we do, we'll bring it back. So let's remove this, but the update, definitely leave it behind. So I think right now what we're going to do is for the update, we're going to create a method, and this would be a public void. This would be let's say load level. So let's call this load level, and inside this load level we're going to access our scene manager dot load scene. And when it comes to scenes, we can either pass in the name of the scene or we can pass in the index value, and in this case the index value is going to be 1, not 0, because 0 is our default scene and 1 is our new scene. So we want to load this scene, and that is what it's going to be. So this would load a new scene for us, And then we're going to, I guess this takes care of the first one, which is the play button. The next is going to be our music button, and for this now, let me go ahead and save this so that we can test it before we go further. Alright, so let's now right click in our hierarchy. Let's create an empty game object and let's call this our menu manager. And on this now, let's reset the transform and let's drag our script into the menu manager. So this is going to be it. Let's clear this console. And let's see, so for the first button, which is our play button, what we do now is we access the onClick method. Let's hit this positive button to add a function to it, and then let's drag this menu manager into it. And under the function, we go into menu and we find that function that says load level. So this is going to be it, and with this done, we can now play our game to test if the button actually works. Right, so the game is active now. Let's go ahead and hit the play button. Let's play, and you can see we're in a new scene. So this should be a great way to access to design your play button anyway. Right now there is no button for us to go back to the previous scene, but then hopefully we will do that later on, or I don't think we'll be covering it in this tutorial rather. So let's take this off. Now the next would be my music on button. So as you can see, the music on is up top. So if I deactivate this, it's going to be music off button. Now I want both of them to be active depending on which is available. So if it's on and then we click on the on, it's going to be off, right? And then once it's on, and then the off button is going to be on, and then once it's off, the on button will be on. So that is how we're going to use these two buttons. Now let's go back into our script. So let's go back into that. And then we can go ahead and create two game objects. So these both would be public. So let's call this a public game object. And the first, let's say, let's call these music on button. We can copy this. Don't do that. And let's paste this here and change this from on to off. So now we have a space to access both buttons. So we will do that later on. But then before we go back into Unity, let's create a public void. That's a function for each of them. So the first one would be the music on. So that'll be the first one. The second one, let's copy this first. So let's copy this, bring it down, and then we change this from on now. Let's bring it to off. So that should be okay. And for this on button, we want the music off button to be active. So let's paste this here, and then let's add dot set active. Let's set this to true. And then we can copy this same line, go down, paste it, and then change this to false. And of course this will be for the on button. So once we hit the on button, we want this to be set active and then the on to be set off, and vice versa for this. So let's copy these two lines and paste it here. And for this would be false. The first would be false, and the second is going to be true. So let's do that. So these are the two which we'll be working with for now. So let's go back into Unity and then set this. Right, so with this downloading, let's go into the menu manager and then the space for each and every, or for both of them, we drag the key or the button there. So for the off, we drag the off to it, and the on, we drag the on to it. And the sound which we're going to be playing is this wrong, so let me select it so we can listen to it. Now pay attention to the sound. Right, so it's about 1 minute and some seconds long. We're not going to wait that long, but this is going to sound good. So probably need some rhyme with the game, or you practice with me, but just pay attention to the tutorial. Now let's go back into the script and let's add some code to this. So what I want in essence is that if the button or the music or is playing, then I want the on button to be active, right? And then when you click the on button, it turns to off. So what we do now is we use something called player prefs, which is used to save very little amount of data for your game. So that is what we will be using to check to see if these buttons are active. So if it's the music on, what I want to do is I think first up is I'm going to type in player prefs for this. So let me type in player prefs. And when using player prefs, you're either going to get key, set int, or access the integer, which is get int, and float string, the same thing. So depending on the key which you want. In this case, what I want is to get an integer, or rather I want to set an integer here. So let's go set int, and this integer, after typing this inside this bracket, what you need to do is add a string to it. So let's open a quotation mark and close that at the same time, and then we can type in music number to this. And in this case, once we hit this button, we want to turn the number to 0, right? So this should be done here, and then let's copy this line and do the opposite. Undo. So let's copy, it's the wrong button. So let's paste this here, and then let's change this from 0 to 1. So this should handle it. And inside our update, we want this to take care of our song. So what we do in our update now is we use an if statement to access this. So let's check to see if our player prefs dot get int, and in this case the int would be our music number. Yeah, so the int in this case is going to be our music number. Let's see, number, and I want to check to see if this music number is equal to 0. If this is equal to 0, then we want our audio listener, and pay attention, this audio listener is what allows you to hear sound inside of your game, or to hear music or whatever it is that is playing in the background. Without this, there will be no music playing. So this audio listener in this case, so let's say for the audio listener, let's dot volume. So as we will access the volume for this, and then the audio listener dot volume, we're going to set this. If the number is equal to 0, then we want the volume also to be equal to 0f. And let's close this, and then we can go on and say else. This audio listener dot volume, let's copy it and paste it here, and then we can change this to 1. So it's a value between 0 and 1. So 0 being where the state which you can't hear anything, and then 1 being the highest volume, or the peak, or the pitch, or the peak of the pitch of the song or audio or whatever it is you're listening to. So with this done, I guess, or I think rather, this should be good enough for us to save our music, and then it should do. So let's save this and go back into Unity. Right, so with this downloading, what we do is we go into our main camera, and you can do this anywhere, there's no problem, but then I prefer the main camera because it contains our audio listener, and this is what would control whether we control this controls whether we can hear the song or not. So it tells us if we can listen to the song or not. Now what we want to do is we want to add a component to this. So left click on the add component and then select audio, and then go for audio source, raw source, and then unfold this, and there will be an area where you can drag your audio clip and place it over there. So click this wrong and drag it there. In your case, it can be any audio which you want to play in the background. And then after this is done, we can go ahead and set the functions for each and every button. So let's select the music off button, and then let's drag our menu manager into it, and the function which this would do is off the music, so this would be it, and the music on, vice versa. So let's drag this, select the function, let's go music on, and this should handle them. And our button which we set by default is 0, so it's not going to be playing anything, and if it's not playing anything, it means we want the on to be available. So let's turn off the off by deactivating it, and that should do. So let's test the game now to be certain if it actually works, and we can't hear anything, so let's click this. So it will be reverse, which I right now, reverse, which I on right now, turns to off, which switches it off. I should have placed it to 1 so we can hear it by default, but no matter, we can see the effect it's having, and see the effect it's having. Sound plays really nice sound, and when you click on it, it turns it back to 0, so the volume is 0 now and we can't hear anything. That's just a simple way which you can do the music. Um, so if you want this to be played by default, or if you want to be able to hear this when you play the game, you should definitely change this number. So you should change this number to 1, so it begins with 1, and then you set this to 1 and set this to 0. But we've already tested that, and I wouldn't want to waste your time, so hopefully you've learned this by now. And let's go back. Oh, we don't need to go back. The final button which we have to handle now is our exit button, and this is really very easy. I really had a hard time looking for this, but then considering the how easy it was, it was actually funny when I discovered that it was just a simple line of code to exit the application. So let's call this exit. Now to exit your application, or if you want the user to exit, normally it's not really a great strategy for you to just allow him to go. You definitely want to ask if he's sure he wants to leave or not, but the user already knows his mind. So if you want to exit right now, all you have to do is type in application dot quit, and as easy as this. So with this, your user leaves the application, so and goes to other applications which are not better than yours, but for some reason he prefers the others, so that will be it. Now same thing here. Right, so at this point you should already know what to do. You select the exit button, go to one click, select add, drag in the manager into it, and then give it a function. This would be the exit. So it's not going to exit if we play the game and test it out, because this exit method is not the one for Unity, so it's not going to exit, but it's going to work once you build your application and it's safely on the platform which is going to be used. So with this, we've come to the end of the tutorial. If you enjoyed my video, make sure you like, hit that red button down below so you don't miss any of my content, and you get hit the notification bell by the side so you get notified whenever I release a new video. And with this being said, thank you for watching. I hope I see you in my next video.